get to the transition pictures for Abraham Lincoln. He led America through the Civil War, he abolished slavery, he set that in process, and was shot in a theater by a Confederate sympathizer who himself was shot 2 weeks later. But Abraham Lincoln obviously is one of the greats, and many, many people ask me to look at his pictures. So when I went in, he was coming down from the ceiling, but spinning like, I think it's a sycamore leaf. Is it sycamore leaves that kind of turn like propellers as they come down? He was just spinning and spinning and spinning, looking all ways. Bear in mind, he didn't die immediately in the theatre when he was shot in the head. He actually went into a coma and died about 6 hours later, I think. In the pictures, it was a gentle come down. Twirling, twirling, twirling. He landed and looked about him. Not the usual tunnels and caves thing this time that I normally see. Over here, there was a big exit with massive amounts of light behind it. It felt like where he was going. The light was just here. But he was standing on a raised, rocky platform and couldn't get down. It was too high. He had to find a way around if he was going to go to the light. He carried on walking along this raised area, which was very much like a wharf, a stone wharf. After a rainstorm, there were puddles everywhere, and he could see his reflection in the water. To the right of this wharf that he was on was the entrance to a tunnel. This would be, I guess, the metaphorical tunnel that he would otherwise have gone up. But it was bricked up. I've never seen that before. Very strange. Carries on walking. The path leads up and over the bricked off tunnel. When he gets up there, he looks back and he can still see the light at the far end. Made me think of Dolores Cannon and her 2 domes, where one may have been for people who are not reincarnated, and the other one is for people who are going to come back for other lives. Maybe that first one was the equivalent of the first dome, that first well-lit archway. But he can't make it. He can't get down there. That's not where he's going. Then he turned back, and now there was this uncommonly bright light. Another one. It wasn't hot, but it felt like it was melting his clothes. First his coat, then his shirt, pants. It just melted his clothes bit by bit until he was simply standing there naked. Just a guy. No accessories, no complications, no titles, no rank. Now maybe he could step into the light. But before he could, there was this rush of energy. It felt like loving, benevolent, welcoming energy. There was exhilaration in this. But it almost knocked him over, and he had to push, he had to force himself through, because what was happening was that as he stepped forward, he was being stripped of even more stuff. Expectations, assumptions, encumbrances, all the things we've talked about before, all these things that went with his mortal self, behavioral aspects, perspectives on life, right and wrong. All these things which relate to his mortal ego self were being taken away as well. Like sandblasted off him by this force of energy coming right at him. Once he had been stripped down to the essence of his very soul. The light came around him, embraced him, pulled him in, and he just went. But he couldn't go until so much had been removed that made him too heavy to ascend. You don't get an easy passage because you're president of a country. You get easy passage if you don't carry ballast that you don't need in the next phase of your development. His mortal self was seared off him, but his soul was welcomed, embraced, the way a doting parent embraces a child. When you have gone as far as you can go in this life and you've fulfilled your remit at a soul level, the universe welcomes you with a pat on the back because you lived in alignment with your soul's path, which is what that list of 25 things I said earlier on is trying to do. Here was a guy who the universe recognized as serving out his purpose. And he was welcomed home as such. And that's Abraham Lincoln. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Subscribe, like, share. Do what you can. Follow me on Twitter if you like, @CashPeters. Otherwise, I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.